every time I travel, anything that I enjoy or like or experience that can be applied to our industry, our business, I make it a point to capture it. And I also make it a point to share it with the team here. The world can be extremely creative. It's great to see what people have done with their creativity. And if you can apply that, not identically, but if you can apply that to where you are, modify it, I think that goes a long way.
Marhaba, I'm Janan Farhat.
And I'm Derek Zeno from the Al Khaimah Foundation.
Welcome to C-Suite Talks, a podcast about what it really means to lead.
We're talking to the people behind the titles to hear their stories, lessons, and a few surprises along the way.
Because leadership is more than just the corner office. It's personal. Today we're joined by Sameh Muhtadi, CEO of RAK Properties, the developer shaping Ras Al Khaimah's next skyline. Sameh, it's great to have you with us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Sameh, since stepping in as CEO in August 2022, you've pushed RAK Properties into a new growth chapter, anchored by Mina, a next-generation island destination with long beachfronts and several branded residences. In 2024, RAK Properties recorded 4 billion dirhams in revenue, up 40% year-on-year, and 308 million dirhams in profit before tax. In 2025, you outlined an ambitious 5 billion dirham launch pipeline, with first phase projects selling through and new releases queued across Mina's districts. At the helm of RAK Properties, you bring decades of regional development experience and a clear mission: build thoughtfully, scale confidently, and keep Ras Al Khaimah's natural assets at the heart of the value proposition. So I have a quick teaser question for you. Sameh, you've said before that Ras Al Khaimah isn't about, and I quote, retrofitting legacy destinations, end quote. It's about building intentionally for the next generation of travelers. So when you look at Mina and the coastline developments taking shape, how do you balance that forward-thinking ambition with your commitment to protecting Ras Al Khaimah's mangroves and natural character?
I think we're custodians to a beautiful part of the world, not just a beautiful part of the UAE. Mm-hmm. And it's incumbent upon us to protect it. What's special about Ras Al Khaimah is its nature, for sure. Mina, in particular, has about 17 kilometers of beachfront. It has 2 million square meters of protected mangroves. It has a year-round flamingo sanctuary, and it has 60 different bird species. It has marine life. That is rare. You don't find that. That's a gift. Yeah. So it's incumbent upon us to actually protect this nature and preserve it and sustain it. And I think that's really, if you had to distinguish us from many other players in the same sector, I think we care about sustainability and the environment more than anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very nuanced view, and it's clear that you're designing both for the environment and people, not just property.
We're designing for the community. We're designing a lifestyle. We're not designing buildings. We're designing a way of life. That way of life brings humans very close to nature. They experience nature. They sense nature. We want to bring them as close as possible to that nature. So that's in the back of our mind every time we come up with a new project, every time we design a retail space, every time we design an office space, etc. I think it's key. Building that lifestyle is not easy, but if we're halfway as successful as we'd like to be, we've come a long way.
Definitely. I think that's very well said. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our 15-minute conversation. Can you walk us through your typical morning routine? So maybe what time do you wake up, and how do you set up the tone of the day?
I'm an early riser. Typical days when I don't go out in the evenings, I'm in bed by 10:30. I'm up by 5:30. My first activity is gym, religiously. I'm there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm lucky that we have a gym next to my home. And I use that first hour of the day to actually plan my day, to go over some of the issues from last week, from yesterday, and plan the day. What are the important things that I need to achieve on that particular day? And that 1 hour of freedom, of seclusion, helped me do that.
And would you say that you're a tea drinker, a coffee drinker? What's your beverage of choice?
I'm a coffee drinker. Rarely tea. I have 2 or 3 coffees a day. One at home, 2 in the office, and that's about it.
And would you say that you like it? Do you have a cappuccino, an Americano?
I have an Americano,
Okay.
and in the office I have a couple of double espressos, preferably macchiatos.
All right. I love a very specific answer. Everyone likes their coffee in a very particular way. And just segueing to your career, I mean, Sameh, you've led in so many different sectors, real estate, investment, infrastructure. Would you say that there's been a defining moment that pulled you toward development leadership?
For sure, 100%. I was a contractor between 1983 and 2007. Worked on many major projects, different parts of the world, US, Europe, the Caribbean, and obviously Middle East. I was approached by Amar in 2007. They had just decided to launch their Egypt operation. And I was nominated to be their CEO, the first CEO of Amar Masr. That was a game changer for me. So moving from a contractor to a developer was an incredible experience for me. And I was lucky to actually start with somebody like Mohammed Al-Abbar and Amar. It's a school in real estate development. So that was my defining moment.
And did anyone mentor you through that transition? Maybe someone whose voice still guides you today or you still recall fondly?
It is Mohammed Al-Abbar himself.
Wow.
As CEO, I was reporting to him and to the board. And he's the kind of person that is very, very actively involved 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'd get messages from him 2 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. Time doesn't matter. He taught me, if anything, it's attention to detail and the significance of interior design.
Wow. And would you say that, just speaking about attention to detail and the kinds of skills that you need to advance in your career, what would you say is the most underrated skill that's helped you develop as a leader?
As a leader, underrated skill to help me develop. I think it's grit. It's not a skill. It's I think you're either born with grit or you're not born with grit. Grit is your persistence, yeah? It is your dedication. And it's it's easy to give up. It's easy to disagree with advice. It's easy, but if you have grit, I think that is probably the most important characteristic any leader should have, and it's what gets you accomplished.
And what do you do if you don't have grit?
If you don't have grit, you give up, yeah, and you move on and you change jobs and you argue and you fight and so on. But grit, actually, knowing what you want to achieve, knowing where you want to be, knowing what product you want to bring to the market, and persisting. And even if you have challenges, persisting again and again and again until you get there. I think that's the one characteristic that I think is most important.
Yeah, that's so true. I think grit and persistence does sound very simple, but it's it's a necessity when you're trying to carve your way and find your path as a leader and as a developer.
For sure. If you want to progress, yeah. And I think leadership is about progress and moving from one level to a higher next.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, so we've asked a couple of teaser questions, and we've started with talking about the serious side of business, but we want to lighten things up a little bit. So welcome to our Wheel of Questions segment, where we let the wheel set the direction. Would you mind giving the wheel a spin, Sameh?
Okay. One.
Wow, very, very straightforward. So when you're not thinking about projects and pipelines, what helps you switch off and take a break?
I mentioned gym earlier that I love the isolation. I love flying, so in airlines as well, I feel that's a private me time where you can actually enjoy either podcasts or reading or watching movies. That for me is an escape. I do need to switch off. I have some weird things that I do that also help me switch off. Ironing, yeah. Oh. So occasionally, when I really need to switch off, I go to ironing. It's a unique Sameh. I don't know what to call it, but it helps me. Yeah. It's my escape.
I understand that. That's me with reorganizing things when nothing is going well, or right. It's me in my closet. And you said that you love to travel. Do you bring back ideas from travel, or does travel stay strictly off the clock?
Every time I travel, anything that I enjoy or like or experience that can be applied to our industry, our business, I make it a point to capture it, either in a photo or a video. And I also make it a point to share it with the team here. The world can be extremely creative. You have different architects, different cultures, different lighting, different landscaping, etc. Yeah. So, you can't come up on your own with all of the new ideas. It's great to see what people have done with their creativity. And if you can apply that, not identically, but if you can apply that to where you are, modify it, I think that goes a long way. So I tend to do that all the time.
So you're never really off duty. Even a walk can maybe be an urban planning research.
No, I don't think of it as duty. I don't think of it as research. But on a 1 week vacation, you're bound to come across interesting solutions.
Yeah. Definitely something that translates to work and helps you think differently about your job and about your life here. Maybe we can give the wheel another spin. I think that's two. It's fairly chronological. All right. So if you weren't running RAK Properties, what do you think you would be doing instead?
I would either be an architect. I think I was an architect in a previous life. That really is what I enjoy. Or some charity, that comes from family and the way I was brought up. I'm convinced that maximum joy is derived by taking care of people, making people happy. And I'm hoping that once I retire, that's exactly what I'll be doing.
And is there any creative itch, let's say, that you haven't scratched yet? A creative project you'd take up? Would it be the charity or something else?
It would be architecture.
Architecture.
Sure. So, I would either build something new, residence more than a building, or it would be a residence, preferably in a terrain that allows you to use your creativity of absorbing the structure within the terrain itself. island, mountain, etc., or a beautiful forest area. That will be amazing if I get a chance to do that.
So Ras Al Khaimah could still be that
Ras Al Khaimah
destination.
absolutely can be that destination.
Amazing, amazing. We are the only emirate with coastlines, mountains, and beaches, and I think also, and also mangroves. We have pretty much everything there is to see.
That's the USP. And what people don't talk about is actually the wealth of marine life that you experience, and bird species, and the abundance of various species.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't know if you've been to the Suedi Pearl Farm, but there is an incredible host of, both small-scale businesses, but also just researchers who come here and conduct research. And
if I may tell you a short story,
Please.
When we built those Anantara villas, the overwater villas, Ras Al Khaimah experiences low tide and high tide.
Yeah.
So we noticed that during low tide, the land gets exposed, the mud and we were wondering, should we dredge that so that people in an overwater villa always see water, or do we keep it as is? And we decided at the end to keep it as is. So what's happening is when you have the low tide, that's when all of the birds come to that area, and they start feeding, and they start, and you see the crabs running on top of the waterbed, and you see the different fish species struggling to stay within water, and it's one amazing experience. Yeah, so that's a joy to watch, and that's where you learn so much about the marine species that you have, the size of the crabs, the colors, and the different fish species, and how the feeding takes place, and the ecosystem, essentially.
Wow, that's incredible.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's incredible. I don't think I imagined that a developer like yourself would have so much knowledge of nature. And, I don't know if you know Professor John Burt, but he's one of the leading experts on marine research and marine life in the UAE. I think he would love to maybe do some exploring and also capture that.
I have to meet. We've done a recent experiment with, we used structures underwater that attract fish, and it's kind of like the reef, but instead of building a reef, a natural reef, which takes years and years and years, we decided to use these spheres with holes in them. And if you look at one of the videos of underwater videos to see how many new fish species have actually moved into those spheres, and it's just fascinating. So some of these things that you can do to help with sustainability, help with the environment. I'm sure there's so much more to do, and I would love to spend some time with the professor to learn some of his ideas.
I'd be very happy to facilitate that connection.
Thank you.
I'm sure John would love to chat with you, and Ras Al Khaimah again and again also brings people back to have these critical conversations about wildlife. And it's so important to make sure that industries align and are connected also with the researchers doing all of this research. I think we can do another last spin.
If I'm guessing, it's going to be 3.
Could be.
Nope.
Oh.
This time it's 7.
7. Oh, all right. Can you share a moment when things didn't go to plan, and tell us a little bit about how you recovered?
There's many moments, when you've had a career as long as mine. No, I've been in some very difficult situations construction-wise, where we've had massive challenges. So I built, for example, airports in Afghanistan. And you go to an area that is unprotected. You have to come up with immediate temporary protection for your workers, for the staff, for the start of construction. I've been in one area where actually militarily we were attacked repeatedly and had to relocate, and it was an experience. Fortunately, we didn't lose anything other than facilities and equipment and so on. But that was one of the negative experiences that I went through. But you learn. You learn how to plan better, how to analyze better, and so on.
Would you say that experience changed how you approach risk?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that is the ultimate risk, I suppose. Going into a war zone and building in, I wouldn't call it enemy territory. We were a private contractor, but planning for that, I think that is one massive risk. Yeah. But there are other very significant risks every day. How you design the structural stability. What do you take into consideration with your developments? Traffic, even wind impact. All of these risks have to be considered. I think part of proper leadership is risk assessment and risk management. Yeah, you need to balance, because you can't eliminate all risk. You need to identify what risk do you need to manage, and you spend on managing that. How much you spend is one of the challenges that you have to make, decisions that you have to make as a leader.
Of course, yeah. Risk management, budget planning, all of these things factor in, and who better to make those choices than the leader who has that bird's eye view of all of the experiences and challenges, but also the operations of a company.
True.
Would you like to take one last spin?
I would.
Hopefully it's not a 1, 2, or a...
Actually 3.
It's a 3. It was destined to be. All right. How important do you think extroversion is in leadership? Or can quiet leaders be just as effective?
I would consider myself quiet. That doesn't mean that I'm a perfect leader. I don't think being an introvert or an extrovert is key to successful leadership. I think introverts can be extremely analytical, studied. They can communicate more in writing than... but I think being an extrovert imparts on the enthusiasm that the team has. And I think it's important for the team to actually be on board, to be as excited about a direction or a project as you are. And that's where you need to be an extrovert. But again, I don't think exclusively extrovert or otherwise is significant.
Definitely. And have you found yourself ever having to maybe adjust your style to fit a team or fit a culture?
For sure. You have to. You report to, even as a CEO, or you always report to somebody. Yeah. And that somebody you don't choose. So by definition, you have to adjust your style, you have to adjust your communication, you have to adjust your interests to suit that reporting line. It's a continuous adjustment. Yeah?
I think adaptability then is a very clear skill that you have to have as a leader.
The most important skill you have to have is taking care of your customers. Yeah, that's a constant. Yeah. That is the one element that must never change, and that's something I keep emphasizing to the entire team. Taking care of customers is what comes first. Everything else follows. If you do it right, everything else follows.
Yeah, I can hear that in how you also talked about the importance of community and centering community in any development initiative. Sameh, as RAK continues its rise on the global stage, balancing growth and sustainability, what legacy do you hope RAK Properties and your own leadership will leave for the next generation here in Ras Al Khaimah and also across the UAE?
We want to be a major influencer of the future of Ras Al Khaimah. I think we're doing that already. I think we've managed to develop the reputation as a trustworthy developer that is coming up with creative ideas, that is taking care of their customers. I'd like for us to be recognized as Ras Al Khaimah's premier lifestyle developer.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a very powerful statement, and it's also evident in the name RAK Properties for Ras Al Khaimah, for Ras Al Khaimah's people, its communities, and also for its environment. And I think that's shown through very clearly through this conversation.
We're lucky to have that name. That makes life easier for me.
Definitely. All right, Sameh, thank you so much for giving us a window into how growth can be both bold but also balanced. And RAK Properties is clearly not just building communities, it's also shaping how Ras Al Khaimah grows into its natural strengths. So here's to a future built with intention. Thank you so much for this very refreshing conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on C-Suite Talks, where we bring global and local insights from the heart of Ras Al Khaimah to the world.
Be sure to follow, share, and tune in next time for another 15-minute conversation about what it really takes to lead.